Hello.
Here.
Welcome to KG9 Live. I am Sarana Mitchell, and we're talking independence, Grenada's 45th independence. With me today is Mrs. Pamela Steele, who has served Grenada well, 45 years in 2019. Okay, before Sir Eric Matthew Gary went to England to bring back that which we have now.
Really a decade of tumult, confusion, misunderstanding. And then a little into the 79 revolution, you know, that came after.
Sure.
Right. Now, let me tell you on the beginning that I grew up on an area we call the Wharf. And the family I grew up with were not Garyites. They did not support Gary. And even after he had his union established, and then he came to, well, first of all, he had the GMIW union, and then he went and he started to have, what should I say, the GULP.
The GULP.
Right, his party. It was always a bone of contention with the Carnage people, as they call the area now, but I would refer to it as the Wharf. People would laugh, they call me the Wharf woman. And
that's not a good connotation, is it?
I love it. I have problem who don't want to be called the Wharf. I work with a lawyer who has recently passed on, and he would get very agitated and upset if you tell him he came from the Wharf. But for me, the Carnage have its purposes, but the Wharf, if you look up your dictionary, is what it is. The schooners, the boats, the ships, the cargo, and the trading. That's what the Wharf is. It was a British word. Now we gone French, so we say the Carnage. Or rather the Carinage, because that's how you pronounce it in French.
Excellent.
And so it was the days basically when you lived there that you dealt with T.A. Marisho. You dealt going a little further back with Doc Mitchell. And later on you came to Mr. Blaze and so. So these are the people that we grew. High up on the, you know, the alleyways like Briggs Alley right here by me here, Adams Alley and the Great Cooper Hill, these people were strong and fanatical Garyites. Now I should tell you that you know all about the history of Gary coming in 51, you know all about the wages people were working for at that time. As I said, and we used to laugh, you know, people would say, oh, Uncle had take us out of 4-string drawers and they put us in panty and this kind of thing. I mean, people were working for really small wages and he recognized that, so he was able to come and make an input.
Oh, it might seem strange, but I want to ask, what does a 4-string drawer look like?
Should have asked me that. I have a few still inside.
All right, we will get a picture.
You will not get a picture of me in one. No, seriously, I have done programs for my mother's union, a group in the Anglican Church, and I brought in part of 4-string drawers. And the first year I did it, the next year a lot of men asked me to put that part back into the, I used to have drama. And so it had women who came in their 4-string drawers. But we'll get into that outside of that program. Okay. So, you know about Gary and the strikes and, you know, Sky Red and all of that, and he and the British and the problem. But we get in, I would deal with the 60s. By the time it was in the 60s, he had already had his union going, right? The GMMIW, and it still exists. And people found a lot of the things he was doing was kind of troublesome, especially for the area that I was in. You know, he had Expo 69. He brought this exposition, and every night it was a country night. I remember Trinidad night, some of us went, and 7 o'clock in the morning, we were still in the line. We didn't even reach to the show, which began at 7:30. And, you know, you reach back home, and you're upset.
So who was performing Trinidad night?
Well, you know, it was the Limbo, the Steel Band, and so on. You know, the connection with Grenada and Trinidad. So people wanted to see Trinidad.
Sparrow wasn't there?
I don't think Sparrow could have handled Gary. I don't think Sparrow would have come up. But, you know, it was just a thing of going to Trinidad night.
I understand.
And then we came and we had Easter Water Parade, 25 truckloads of white sand, and he threw it all around the Wharf Road. And everybody's sewer was blocked for 10 years after that with sand. So you could imagine, people were upset.
Okay.
And all manner of things. Then we had a zoo at the botanical gardens that didn't survive for various reasons. You can't put people who in need and give them meat and chicken to go and feed animals in the zoo. Come on. They need it home.
They would feed themselves.
I mean, you know, the impracticability of certain things people used to do. Anyhow. But Gary had his following. Who like Gary, he couldn't do no wrong. Who didn't like Gary, he can't do no right.
It's the same as now with anybody in power.
You don't put me in serious trouble. But yeah, it's the same thing. And you're right. I mean, it have people didn't like you for whatever reason, no matter what you do, they don't like you. So it was so with Gary. Anyhow, at that time, as we moved out of the 60s, you had a different atmosphere. The New Jewel movement was coming in. He had told him many times, Jewel, behave yourself, otherwise they will try me for murder. Oh yes, that was a chant, not his own, but we always summarize it came from him. You will go to work and you never know what's going to take place. And the Jewel now is, they come from well-educated people. Because to be quite fair to Gary, he wasn't totally well-educated, through no fault of his. But it appealed to the people he had. For instance, if you look at your history, he always ran in the South and won. But he was not a man from the South. But he moved his electorate into the South from Grenville parishes. He put them in the Lime, put them in Montu, and in the Valley in particular. And so that is why that place have that agricultural background. He moved them down, and these are the people who supported it and voted for him. So a man who came from St. Andrews area always won his seat in the South. And that was part of the reason. So sometimes when you hear they say they move people from side to side, some of us just have a good laugh and go inside. They always move.
Okay.
And so you had this, you know, and we would walk with him, and you never know what was going on. He had adult suffrage by that time. People were being allowed to vote, especially women. When I came into the service, I came in 1961. I was working for $72 a month, which a guy in the bank told me last week, Mr. That must have been a lot of money for you. They are working for thousands and I can't pay a mortgage.
$72
$72 a month. And you were on 2 years probation. And then when I got married, I had to resign and reapply as a married woman to come back in. They were not too partial and keen on married women.
Because you have to take pregnancy.
Well, you had to take leave without pay because you know, these things were not there yet.
Yeah, instituted, yeah.
And so you had all this dissension, and then he had these women. He had Jermaine Pope as his secretary. He had Auntie Tech, who I took over storytelling from. And Auntie Tech, you know, was not easy. She and Gloria would always be in some confusion, quarreling. My good friend Miss Payne Banfield. And he had these women. And then, of course, he had Nadia Benjamin in his cabinet, and his wife was the Minister of Education, a very decent woman. So I don't want to go straight into that, but I used to tell Morris most time, you know, Morris, I don't know much about you from St. Paul's. St. Paul's people were kind of real difficult in those days.
When you say difficult, what do you mean?
A kind of social attitude.
Uppity?
Yes, that is an ordinary Grenada word which would sum it up.
But we have to keep it Grenadian?
Yes, but you know, I grew up with Bernard Code and his brother Floyd and Ina and these people, so I knew them. They were living just across there in Paddock. But all the, you know, the marching and the movements of having meetings, the New Jewel movement, a lot of people I knew was attracted, including me, to them. I found these people were speaking a language I could understand finally. You know, Morris always had this thing about the needy with the poor. Gary had the need with the poor. I would say that Gary built a lot of schools within the short period of time, while Blaze did primarily with the infrastructure of the country.
Okay.
And I should pause here and say that when people go to St. Vincent and St. Lucia, St. Vincent in particular, it was an eye-opener for me. You cannot go wrong St. Vincent. You have to go up one side, come back down, go up the other side. And we have explained to students that the reason we have such an excellent network of roads, which we've been trying to maintain for years, is simply because the governor used to live, the governor of the Windward Islands used to live in Grenada. So certain things were put in place here.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the class structure was also put in place during that period, which Grenada suffered from for years.
Class structure.
The class structure. This is part of the problem Gary had. He had a lot of vision, as a friend of mine would always say. You ain't giving Gary a chance. The man is a visionary. You know, he had the land for the landless, although they used to measure it with string. They had to meet the people tour. I mean, I worked with him right from the time I joined the service until he left in 79.
Okay.
I didn't say it was an easy time for either of us. Anyhow, so you had this Blaze saying he going to unitary statehood with Trinidad. It didn't work out. Trinidad want more Grenadians only. Trinidad full of Grenadians. My mother and all my family were in Trinidad. So when it came up to that election in 72, Gary campaigned on independence. He never explained to the ordinary man in the field and the ordinary woman, those who say he put panty on them and take them out of four string, what independence was. But from the time he said about independence, it was like a flower opening. The drama began.
What did they think independence was?
I don't know. He never explained to them what it was. They thought, well, if it was Gary was going to England for independence, he was going to get money and come back and give them. Now, by that time, the NGM got very upset. Not only here, you know, we used to have all problems with faxes and so coming in. The islands we had, in those days you had what we now call the OECS, the lesser developed country, LDC. You had the four big guns, Barbados, who is much bigger than us, and Dominica bigger than them. But you had Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica. They were MDCs, more developed. And they were shocked. They used to say in Trinidad, well, what happened to that man in Grenada, Gary? He's smelling himself. There are 2 children cannot make 3, they don't have money. They're going for independence. So people were upset.
Okay.
And Grenada was the first country in the OECS to go for independence. And the strange thing is, this constitution that you see we fighting with, St. Vincent didn't pay attention and Antigua, but the rest paid attention. St. Lucia and all, Dominica, all of them, when they decided to go for independence, they go through Grenada Constitution with a fine-tooth comb. They're making the same mistake. But Gary went, and Mr. Blaze had to go with him. And I was shocked one day in the ministry, I hear a woman saying, hey, I thought Mr. Gary said Mr. Blaze was a white man. The man just fair skin. They thought he was a white man.
Are you serious?
Well, maybe Mr. Blaze maybe didn't used to move around as he should. If he was moving around, they would have known he wasn't a white man. So, you know, you have these things, you go to work every day, you know, in his office, Prime Minister's office. All this drama. And then some of us just couldn't handle behavior and just was irritated. Starting with me, always in problem. I remember one year I fight and then like 2 weeks already with Garfield. Yeah, and I was when we had a break from food children. And I'm on the wall big one and what they call the mail boot. You know, the mail boot was in a easy boot because it had all these gigs in you. And I see a police come and ask you Mrs. Steele. And my husband say, my wife look at it. Oh, Mr. Davis say you have to come now because you have to go to Mount Royal and feed those children at 7 o'clock. I said, Uncle said to come on. Yes, Miss Steele, used to dream in the night. He dreamed that he feeding 35 children today, and you have to go and help prepare breakfast.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I tell him I can't do that. He said, well, he got to arrest me. The man said, "Miss Steele, you go tomorrow and he'll go and see what uncle want." Call these people are Gary people.
Yeah, and they all refer to him as uncle.
Yes. Eventually we used to call him EMG.
Okay.
Anyhow, I did go, and I did tell him it was not on my job letter, and certainly my letter from the Public Service Commission did say any other post, of equivalent status. I don't know what he's trying feeding trying come into it. But anyhow, I didn't really bother with him. And so we...
So you did not go and feed the children?
Suppose I go and then get these people trying something wrong to eat and drink, and he tell them it's Miss Pamela Steele. I could give my children something wrong to eat and drink, not Grenadian women children. Grenadian women not easy, but the children are concerned. Eh? So so we enter now, and the demonstration started.
Okay.
Independence, yes. Under Gary, no. And that was the team, eh? Mm-hmm. Then we had Bloody Sunday, 18th of November, 1973, where those boys say that he put a head in toilet
yes.
and flush it. We had the whole Duffus report, which I have a copy here. I buy all those things, eh? And more drama.
And Bloody Monday.
Then you had Bloody Monday.
January 21st, right?
But you see, November, you had the whole of Christmas. It kind of held up a little. It's Christmas.
Calm down.
And January, it started again. The same demonstration going on. And my grandmother used to say, well, why don't give the man a chance and let you do what you want? Because whatever happened, you doing what you want, which was true. And I had an uncle, Roy St. John, who also ran on the GULP ticket and didn't win. He used to come every time during the campaign. Oh, I'm coming here today. My grandmother was his aunt, all of them are St. John, and he would say, blood is thicker than water. I'm expecting you all to vote for me. And nobody would answer, and when you go, everybody would laugh, because we know we voting Gary. So in this kind of household, I never analyze, the GULP and Mr. Gary. But my family in the town, they were fanatical Garyites, but I'm living on the wharf.
So you had the wharf and you had town?
Yes, but I didn't grow up with my mother. I was on the wharf from 3 months old.
With your grandmother?
With my grandmother.
All right.
Who wasn't easy. I grew up with 3 old women.
Well, you ain't easy, so.
Well, a lady tell me that the older I get like my grandmother, God help me. But you see, these people teach you how to survive, especially after Hurricane Janet, 22nd of September 1955, when the pier went. Everybody on the old wharf road was working on the docks. So you woke up one morning and the pier wasn't there. You had to survive. We learned how to survive. Okay. That is why it is difficult. And we have a lot of people that come from the wharf. You start with Peggy, you start with Chester, the whole David family. We know the word survival.
Okay, so...
And basically, as I just tell them, sometimes people always say me on Facebook. I don't have Facebook. What you put me on Facebook for? And the Anangosa does be on Facebook, and asking me what you were up to, and I'm the mother. So anyhow,
so
so you go into
Bloody Monday, January 21st,
yes.
1974.
And the call was, people say, I don't know, I'm in a ministry, I'm not outside, but Uncle tell them, take out all the roughest and the worst they could find, all who been in jail, and come out empty everybody and send them down and tell the jury behave themselves. You could read the first report, which was very biased, coming to think of it. And so they came down early. And then they pack up these 2 truckloads of solo drink. No plastic bottles there. Those days we don't have plastic. The difficulty is that in those days with all the demonstration, most of the people who were there were school children. Carry people in come and demonstrate against him. people in St. George's have this attitude about going and demonstrate. It's only, I see people I am shocked at with placard in a hot sun in town. Not my 2 girls. And they're working in ministries. You want to say that you have a problem with whatever it is, salary, wherever, and you want to show your displeasure and you keep away your labor, you sit in your office with a book and read. You go outside and you watch outside and you pick 2 mango in the botanic gardens. What are you doing in the hot sun with a placard?
So you won't go slow?
Yeah. You see, a public officer is a professional person. And you have to show your professionalism.
Okay.
That is my take on it. That is how I spent all those years there. And I work with 5 prime ministers.
Okay.
So this thing on the carnage, the truck was parked up there and it was a lot of school children. The trouble is that when it started, the school children went into Otway House. And Mr. Bishop went in there. Morris' father. Yes, Rupert. And closed the door. So what they did is they were pelting things through the windows. I don't know what they went out to say. He and 1 or 2 of the grown-ups, but it was mostly school children. And everything got out of hand. Of course, they have always said the police did not do their duty, what they had to do. And you have to remember, in those days, you didn't have a local police commissioner. People seem to forget. We're talking about the 70s. It's only after independence you had a local police commissioner. You had a governor general, because by that time, Dame Hilda Byrne left the same day, the same afternoon of the 24th. The lady went. She didn't know what they would have done. It was too much. So you had these things after your own auditor. You see, people argument in all the demonstrations, they didn't want Gary there because he spends money crazily. Having worked in government for years, I don't know where people get money to spend. I will tell you something, it took me 10 years to understand EMG. And it wasn't until he came back after his exile and went to live right above me there in Mr. Squire's house, where you have the Berean Secondary School. I got to know and appreciate the metal of the money.
Okay.
After all this trouble, both Mr. Gary and I had working together.
Okay.
He never held it against me. I must say that.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
But so this was the whole idea. We don't want him there because he's going to spend money. I never know the treasury have money. You have a budget of estimate, and revenue. And the only way you could get any money to run a country is from the port, mainly, or your capital projects. So after that, on the morning of the 22nd, you had the committee of 22 being set up, mainly of church people. And when I say church people, I'm not speaking about the laity like me, the sinners at the foot of the cross.
You're talking about
the men and women of the cloth.
Okay. Priests and bishop and...
Exactly.
Okay.
And church councils. I did a whole storytelling on the committee at 22.
Okay.
With one question for us to tell me, I bring all them unions, who break the strike? All of them come. I know if we learn who break the strike, because it ended up in our pro. Gloria was there, and when she said, you know, no mongoose gang, and people lie, well, that just busts the whole thing apart.
But since I growing up, I've heard about the mongoose gang and how bad they were, and how they were the heirs and the hands of EMG.
Well, you know, Sarana, the thing in the storytelling is I had 2 young men from Cooper Hill whose family was strong areas, and he that get up and say, you know what happened to you? You lie, it had a mongoose gang, and that just busts everything. If I didn't have Ricardo Kinzoglesly in that storytelling, might have a big fight with all kind of thing. So,
okay, so let's not have a
so
fight
you
on
see,
TV.
but anyhow, the committee at 22 shut down the country. Rightly or wrongly. But the committee at 22 felt that the last straw was the Bloody Monday on the Old Wharf Road with what went on with the soft drink bottles. And the police coming out, and instead of guarding, they were firing. But then, who was the commissioner of police? Who was the premier. You know what I mean? Who you taking instructions from?
That's true.
So people have to be reasonable when they're writing things.
Okay.
So all of us left the ministries. At the time, we were in the gardens, not in this present ministerial complex, but the old one. And that was it for the day. Everything just collapsed. The only thing that the union allowed was that the people who were dealing with the water would ensure that the hospital had water 24/7, but light used to come and go. And in all this confusion, which was 73, January the 24th, Mr. Gary leave in 2 weeks while the country's shut down. And he gone in England, you know. He gone for independence. By that time, we had Cecil Edwards tell me he was up there. He put Astrid Gibbs, he put all his men, all people he could trust up there.
Yeah, yes.
And,
that makes sense, though.
you know, people still demonstrating down here, and the man gone to England, you know. The man gone up there.
So in one word, to me, no matter what they say, he was a determined man.
He was always determined.
Very determined.
A man that could move his voting people, his electorate, from St. Andrews into the south, and vote and win every time he went. He's a determined man.
Very determined.
So he was a determined man.
So then, okay, so he went to England. Mr. Blaze was with him.
He had to go. They would not have given him without Mr. Blaze being there.
Why you say that?
Because that was the arrangement with the
Okay.
British government. You see, he won his election in 72 on the basis of promising the people
That he's going to get
he's
them
going
in-
to. The British were just waiting for Gary to come up later hand him and say, okay, you want independence, we have it waiting for you. We tired. You know, there was a time when a reporter came down, just before he went up and asked him, he won election and all this demonstration, so he asked him how many enemies he had. And he said, he don't have no enemies. Man said, no enemies? He said, no. They're all there, they're lying in Wilberforce Cemetery. So the reporter was shocked. He said, how did they die, sir? He said, all of it from natural causes.
I watched that interview.
And that thing just capsized people. I sit down on my desk and I said, well, Gary, easy now.
And it's how he responded.
And you see, he always developed this accent when he came from Aruba.
Yes.
From natural causes.
From natural causes.
Well, the poor man could ask another question. So he went up and came back down. Everything was ready for him. They gone up to Simone because Gary is coming and he got independence. And people blowing whistle and music and fanfare and drum. Show us, uncle, show us, uncle. And he said, my people, I have it in the bag.
Oh, gosh.
Show us, uncle. I think they thought it was money and he just unfolded. I went up there with a friend, a strong Gary. I mean, I don't have nothing against him, and I just don't understand where he's coming from. And I take a Cooper Hill friend, and we got up. Them love Gary to death. And she said, well, what do you mean you have it in the bag? I said, it's a document giving approval. You thought it was money?
Sorry to laugh, but that is where we were as a people.
That is why I tell you at the beginning of what I'm going to say. I have to remind people, we are now in 2019, but we are speaking of the late 60s and the 70s, which was turmoil, confusion, drama, etc. So Gary came out and he started to put his committees in place. Jermaine Pope is his secretary, and he have, of course, Nadia is there, and all the other people he have around him. Mind you, his big supporters like Greenface, my good friend always in St. George's, Jerry Romaine, and so these people don't want no high position in government. These are the structures in the party. So he put all these people there and he started to plan. He put a committee together to write stories for children, Grenadian children. He called it the fairy tale book, Independence. I have one inside 45 years.
Okay.
He had his nutrition book by his whole group because he had people in Tivoli who were very good. And that was also a book printed for the independence. So he had all these independence booklets printed out.
But that's not bad for someone, like the thinking process getting these things in
Well,
place.
wasn't he that Indian, you know?
Well,
he was smart.
to have people that could think that way around. That's important.
Right, because
That's
he had
very
George
important.
hosted as his minister for finance for a long time, and George used to tell him, Chief, them people you have around you doing a lot of nonsense. And he said, oh, George, don't worry yourself. Don't worry yourself.
But if you're a good leader, you will surround yourself with people who can support you.
Exactly,
and
and that is what Grenadians don't understand.
Exactly.
People who you can trust, and that is how he operated. So when he came back, he had all these people preparing the different sections for independence.
That's smart.
And every day we go to work, those of us in the system, Gloria, myself, Miss Philip, Auntie Tech, and you have these committees meeting. You put a committee to deal with the flag. I see they gave one man a big award, but it was about 6 or 8 people who were there to deal with the drafting of the flag, the color. You had people who came up with the wording of the flag. He had Winston Masanto to help with Miss Ova Batiste, putting the anthem together, the words, the music. He just went ahead. And then all that, the demonstrations going on every day.
But he's just doing things and keeping things
My
going.
grandmother used to say, but what is wrong with these people? The man get independence he wanted, he come back with it. What, they only beating the road outside and mashing up their kegs? She ain't voting for the man.
But she right.
So
but anyway, go ahead.
they went on and they have no light. So a lot of men who used to run around in the night had to stay home with their wife. They used to say they must stay home with their wives. And we used to laugh next day in the office. Everybody did, you know. And so he went ahead. You see, the social aspect he met there, which I myself passed through when I got married, Grenada had a whole social problem.
Class system?
The class structure, who you are, where you come from.
It still exists.
I hope not.
Yes, it does.
He tried to play tennis in Richmond Hill, they don't want him there. He was a good cricketer too. He played cricket with my husband. He tried to play lawn tennis in Tantine. In the end, he had to put a tennis court right on the wharf. Now today they develop it, they call it the Carnage Sporting Complex. The whole structure there kept out certain people from what they wanted.
It's more open now, but it still has it's like
It's more open.
it's freer, but at the same time you have those who you would know your certain place, and certain people would be in certain areas that you know certain people don't belong. It still exists in certain.
Well, I know when I got married, I met it there. And I say, if they think they have a problem with a wharf woman, they don't know who they're dealing with. I had years of it. I just didn't used to bother.
Within your own family.
My husband's family, not my own family.
Well,
My
it is your family to an extent.
Yes, my whole family, them people had them St. John and horse. One used to remind me all the time, Pam, remember our ancestor, Mr. Horse, came down as convict from Scotland in 18 how much and dump all of them here. And he the crazy, so all of us have a little bit in us. That also explanation. But anyhow, so the demonstrations, you know, continued. And then because the oil field workers in Trinidad and the cement workers, all of them who were together with the cement workers here, had this big union and affiliation. And the strike was broken from Trinidad. Trinidad broke the strike.
Trinidad broke the strike in Grenada.
Well, we always felt so because the goods started coming back up. Remember, they weren't sending up anything.
Okay.
You know, Trinidad was a little irritated with Gary, you know, and they wasn't sure what we were doing because they say, they don't know why this man went for independence. So they were happy to be part of the strike. But in the end, they reopened the ports in Trinidad. And because my aunt used to traffic, so this is why I know that. So then she started to go back down with the trafficking and bring back up goods. Because that's how a lot of people survive in Grenada, the trafficking program. And she used to traffic, you know. She would go down with like the sugar apple, the sea moss,
Yes,
especially
yes,
the
yes.
cinnamon, but especially the sea moss and the sugar apple and these sort of things. She would go down the sauce up and then come up with food stuff.
So, you pointed out that we were, of course, not pointed out, but it is a fact that we were the first in the OECS
Yeah, the first.
to get independence. And the MDCs were looking down like, who are these people?
Yeah,
Who is
therefore we
Grenada?
weren't ready for it.
Yes, so of course we have this thing in the Caribbean, the small and the big, and it was really prominent back then. So they looked down on us wanting to go for independence, but they broke the strike basically, and goods started passing back.
Yeah, the
and
good
forth.
started. So I did a storytelling mainly to ask who broke the strike. Well, it created, as I tell you this thing. You see, let me just go back, just sidetrack one about the Mongoose Gang. They did call themselves the Mongoose Gang, regardless of what Gloria would say. But at the time, the Ministry of Health through the Pan-American people had what they call the mongoose trappers. And for each mongoose tail you brought in, they showed you how to make the trap, and the farmers made the trap. And for each tail you got $1. And that was a lot of money in those days. Some people will come in and bring in 24 tails. The result was that really and truly the mongoose used to eat the rats. So the farmers had a problem with the rats. That is how, when the people came from Trinidad and they looked and they saw the nonsense that was going on here, they themselves were members at the time of POW. We didn't have all that till after independence.
Okay.
So they came. So these trappers some of them could have been in that gang that came there on the Old Wharf Road. So they call it, that's how explanation, but I know the trappers had nothing to do with Gary Mongoose gang.
So
They came down, you know.
We have, 5 more minutes. And I want for you to tell me from 1974 to 2019, okay? Where are we now?
Okay. Well, there were certain things that Gary put in place before he was out and put out a Grenada here, in 79. One of the things was Grenada was the first country in the OECS to host the OAS meeting. It created another uproar because nobody, including Barbados, had ever offered to host a meeting at the Organization of American States.
But Gary went ahead.
And Gary went, and so they were upset. They said, we don't have people speaking Spanish because all the members at that time was really from Latin America, Spanish speaking.
The
right.
OAS members.
We also didn't have a convention center, and we did not have a hotel, 1 or 2 hotels. The hotel stocked in the rooms.
We have
And he
rooms for
just
that.
ordered a dome. And then every day the demonstrators came back out. I said they just went and put back on their sneakers. What is a dome? Why he going there? That is expense. But he had the dome. A lot of us worked for 4 straight days and nights. He had his meeting of the way. He went to the same Trinidad and brought up a set of Venezuelan students. He had people here who had Venezuelan family and they came up and it went off great. Now, after that, that was in October 1977. The OS meetings are always in October. After that, we went straight now into 79. The NJM felt at the time, well, no matter how we do, we can't keep that man quiet and get him out. So the revolution went in. But within that time, to go into your question about the future write-up, he had started the Social Security Program, which is now known as the NIS. But he couldn't get his own people to pay the NIS. The money was small and they weren't prepared. It took a long time to get domestic workers, seamstress. Up to date, there are farmers and fishermen who would voluntarily go in because the NIS have evolved where you can go in and join the NIS as a person who operates in your own business.
And it's pension for later on.
They didn't understand it. It's now some of them. I sent a lot of them and spoke to a lot of them, especially seamstress. He also, at the time, tried to get funds for the airport. There were a lot of plans there. But the nature of the people that were there at the time and how we just talk about it, the regular people who would have given help were not going to get Gary. I mean, they learned so much, they were told so much, right or wrong, whether it was true, they were not going to put 1 cent in Gary and to be airport.
Because he was dark?
Plus that they felt they hear he does spend money that don't belong to him. I don't know what it was because I work in government.
The
But
same airport you're talking about that is
yes,
now Morris Bishop International.
yes. So there were a lot of plans he had there.
Okay.
So he had his plans for the airport. But Morris, you see where he went to build the airport? He went in a socialist country. He said he could never build an airport in Grenada when we quarreled with, with unions. He used to say, comrade, sister Grenadians don't know about working except nurses and doctors. Working from 7 to 7 next morning or 1 to 8 next morning and go back to work now. They don't know that kind of work. The unions would put a block. He had to go outside. And he was right, eh?
Okay.
He was right. So the airport was developed. It is still going on. The NIS is still going on. But basically, my two areas I thought that Gary started and continued was health. Health and education. The PRG took education where they met it. Where you had teachers in school with students who were brighter than them. And they started the Center for Popular Education, CPE.
Yes, CPE.
And just literally threw people in there, especially women.
Yeah.
And everybody went in there. And Grenada just set the pace for education.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when the PRG went out, that whole package was taken by Dr. Jules, who knew it, did the course, who worked in the revolution with a lot of us, and took it straight back to St. Lucia. But that was part of the heritage. Now we're back again, where education took a real thing off.
Okay.
Mr. Blaze built a lot of roads, Gary put a lot of schools, but the PRG put people back into schools. The schools were there were nobody.
Everybody had a part to play.
Yeah, for instance, my eldest daughter and I, we had 3 fishermen here for 3 months teaching them to read and write.
Recently or?
No, during the PRG time.
Okay.
So I'm just showing you how it all evolved.
Yes.
And the health in particular was very poor here. I would tell you we had a man called Mr. Loha. You know where Royston and Lahey lives now? He used to live there. And he took sick, and all the wife would say, oh, you have fever tonight, or he hoarse. And then one morning she called and said he couldn't breathe, he couldn't talk. The ambulance came for him and he died the next day in hospital. The whole place was in uproar. The man was well respected and known. When they took a sample of his blood and they sent it to Trinidad, down there, right in the epidemiology center, the people were alarmed. They said it have polio on the wharf in Grenada. The man has died from polio. Those people sent a team up one time. He said he's making a trip right all the alleyways, Cooper Hill, Briggs Alley, Adams Alley, Chapel, Cox Alley, all day. Somebody else have polio. This time he had 3 people there. One in a wheelchair, they say they do him. Another one walking Trevor Finney, and they say they do her. And another one. The man gathered up all these people. Polio, you know. Polio.
Boys voodoo.
And the man inoculate
Ethiopia.
everybody from 1 month. They spend weeks in Grenada. Then people start to realize, no. We have to go to power.
Okay.
So we joined the UN. Gary joined the UN, and everybody continue in the UN.
Okay, so as we see, we've come a far way from 1974 to now. And 45 years is basically you're looking for greatness, wonders, and we're hoping further down the road there will be more greatness for Grenada. Of course, aren't we?
Of course, each generation have to make
Build
their
on,
mark and build on what
what
is
the
there.
other one has done. Ms. Steele, thank you for your storytelling, thank you for your time, and thank you for spending time with us, sharing your home with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I hold all kind of meeting inside it. Even political. I tell them it's my house, I could bring what I want in it.
Thank you, Ms. Steele.
But you're welcome.
Thank you.
But let me out of the record, let me tell you why I make up with Gary. One thing before you go. I went
like this lady?
we're coming up to World Food Day, and I went to Carriacou. The FAO was stationed, who is part of the UN, you know all the UN organ, in Barbados. And the UN in Barbados had the director from headquarters. And he came down and he said he had a big program to take a tree to Carriacou to plant. Just take a tree to Carriacou. And when we got there to open it, I said, you know, you are 25 years late. I had a prime minister who had take a tree to Carriacou before. That is why Carriacou have a lot of trees. We had taken a lot of trees, cherry and Moby. You know, when I came back, he was up there. He had come back from exile. And he ring, you know, the next morning and he said, Mrs. Steele, you have put them in their place.
Thank
And
you.
I realized that man, I do that man a great disservice, but we made up. But yes, we had a program, Take a Tree to Caribou.
Yes. He did a lot of good, and you
Yes.
just always hear the negative, and everybody always jump on the band. Oh, the NJM was this, and Morris was this.
Yeah, no,
Everyone
but
brought
he
their
did.
Good, but he did.
You know
Everyone
why?
has their good and their bad.
He took care of his people. Any political leader that doesn't take care of your people and you don't win your election, you can't blame nobody but yourself. He took care of all the people who supported him.
So
The hierarchy, the big ones, the big papi, and the little ones on the ground. He took care of everybody who supported him. Everybody. In closing, I want to say I have always been a proud Grenadian. When I go abroad, after 2 months, I get terribly homesick. I have been out and come back. I really applaud how people now understand what independence meant. The colors, the national dish, the competition, and I go for years to the parade. Even when I was a PS, I go ordinary. I chaired 2 independence celebration, 2 for the PRG and 1 for Mr. Gary and 2 for the PRG. And you know, people have come a long way, because I remember once he said if he offered $1,000 for anybody to stand up and sing the anthem without missing a word, that money will stay in his pocket. But people know the anthem now. Children know the anthem in schools, and it's a big plus, because at one time people had no respect for the flag.
That's true.
And now people understand that you could use the colors. You don't have to wrap up the flag on the ground and play jab-jab with the flag full of jab-jab. You can use the colors. And I'm happy, real happy.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining KG9 Live. I'm Sarana Mitchell. Happy Independence.